The Los Angeles County Museum of Art is the largest art museum in the Western United States.
With a very important and spectacular pre-Columbian ceramic collection that we needed to investigate.
And now we're going to do a big exhibition with these objects here at LACMA, but there's not that much known about ancient Colombia.
It's a challenge. We found the support to go to Colombia in a research trip, and we really didn't know that this was going to change our perspective on life and our perspective of our own mission at LACMA. In the last episode, we saw how intricate the balance in nature is. The balance of water needs to be kept by the connection between the mountain and the ocean. And the Arhuaco need our participation and awareness in keeping the balance and preserving the environment.
We learned so much, and we spent so much time down there and built this relationship and listened. But now we're at this point where we need to translate that into an exhibition. And I feel an incredible sense of responsibility both towards our Indigenous collaborators and their message, and then towards the collection that's in our care, and then towards our audiences here. And so that is the big challenge now. How do we now transmit this knowledge and this collaboration and this friendship and this guidance in an exhibition setting? So I think that's what we are hoping to talk to you a little bit about on this call.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. An exhibition is a story just like a movie or a play, but it's around and about the artworks, and it creates that story in a three-dimensional reality. So how are we gonna translate our story, our narrative, into space?
Exhibition design is basically objects in space with a visitor. That's it. The thesis statement of the exhibition comes directly from curatorial, right? Because that's the big interpretation. What is this show about? This show is about X, Y, Z. And this is how the objects represent that. And it's our job to show how those objects can be told by where the objects go in a room. And sometimes people like objects that you have to look up, sometimes you have to look down, sometimes these guys are friends, sometimes these objects are not friends, sometimes they can't talk to each other. Maybe this object is the most popular kid in the group, and then they have a lot of friends around them. Maybe this object is more of a loner, it needs to be by itself, and that type of stuff. And then if you take it to that next level of introduction, you can't see anything in the dark, so light is really that next level.
The show draws a lot from nature and landscape, and just all the different kind of environments throughout Colombia. Having the environment is almost a character in the show, this kind of immersive character that brings kind of everything together.
I remember when you came back from that visit, and we're talking about some of the back and forth. Were there initial impressions that they had about what we were doing?
Maria Alicia really thought that we were far from knowing the complexity. And I think in recognizing who she is as a leader, she really wanted to teach us, because she saw that we were serious about it, but that we really were super green. we were super green. So she really helped us to in our visit to Bogota, we saw the richness of what they know and how they see things and how open intellectually they are. They use anthropology. They are open for indigenous collaboration. They are really, in a sense, very contemporary.
Se sabe tanto desde la antropología como se sabe desde el mundo tradicional. Hay cosas que son intraducibles, cosas que no podemos expresar en nuestro lenguaje técnico, pero al mismo tiempo hay cosas que ellos no pueden expresar en el lenguaje de su saber tradicional. Más que un equiparamiento, lo que queremos es justamente la existencia de múltiples voces en nuestras colecciones, en nuestros museos. Queremos que sea un espacio de visibilidad de esas otras formas de ver el mundo y que no sea solamente el museo el único que diga al final cómo es que los indígenas entienden su existencia, sino que también haya la posibilidad de que existan tensiones, pero también de que existan puntos en común entre el público indígena y el museo.
It's super exciting how Museo del Oro are incorporating multiple voices in their exhibition systems. But with this project, we want to go one step further. We're not putting kind of Western knowledge and Indigenous knowledge like at the same level and having multiple voices. We're just going with the Indigenous voice. Museums have so long prioritized Western scientific knowledge at the expense of the Indigenous voice that we really, with this exhibition, want to emphasize and really showcase and center the Indigenous point of view and Indigenous voices.
These pieces are messengers that keep balancing nature, keep balancing the relationships between everything. So we couldn't present these works without their own relationship among each other and with the landscapes and sites that they belong to. So both the catalog and the exhibition are framed with these principles.
And in a funny way, we ended up leaning very heavily on the notion of us as hosts. You know, when you have someone from another culture come to visit, the things that you do to make them feel comfortable, the things that you do to make them feel welcome, and the information that you provide to other people so that they know who they're talking to and, you know, and create some sense of commonality for the purpose of conversation. So that actually, as a motif, for me as a publisher, was helpful.
So if we can have these objects be, I love that phrasing, radical present, and then everything else is just there to provide them with life, to provide them with a platform, to provide them with some sort of context, and to evoke ideas about what these things are and how they might be used and how they might function and what they might do without being specific about saying this represents a jaguar and this is a shaman's tool, because we don't know that. So, but I'm very inspired by this sense, this idea of trying to just create an atmosphere in which they can come to life. I will try and show you how we've tried to do this in the exhibition right now, and you can see what thoughts you have.
Yeah, no, it would be really great to just go. Why don't you go forward? Talk about
Okay, let's do that. Let me share my screen and show you the floor plan as we have it. That has been our big challenge, but we've really tried to take on board what we did learn. And so the first thing is that the sections are actually set up in this, almost in the same way that we were led through understanding their point of view and understanding their perspective on all of this. So the first section is, we've called it storytelling. I mean, these are placeholder names, but the first section is about this thinking that Diana has talked about.
So this is our storytelling section, and so we have that's the ancient group of co-culturing. Contemporary, ancient, okay. Co-culturing, ancient. Okay, so that's it. We have 400 objects. So I need this information because here I have the dimensions too. So I know how big each of these pieces is. And I can have a guess at what's going to fit together in one case and what isn't.
Then you get into kind of more this physical, you know, something that's not abstract as much, but you're still trying to support that abstract. that's when your reality sets in. Then we start introducing these ideas of casework, because another part of it is how to get an object in the space you want it, right? It's not just going to float there. And so that's where exhibition furniture becomes extremely important. In addition to that, it's the protection of the objects. You know, kind of to keep going with this idea of these objects as little kids and who they hang out with. Like little kids, they have different allergies. They have different needs. You know, this one can't have peanuts. You know, this one just needs a lot of hydration. I don't know, right? And so basically all these objects have a lot of, they're all special in their own way. And so that's the other aspect that we bring to the table.
The way that I would like to group these is to mix ceramics and metal together, because they form a group. But the metal has particular climate conditions that need to be met in terms of humidity, and the bark cloth has particular conditions that need to be met in terms of light and humidity. So if we mix things together too much, our designer is going to have a tough time producing the right kinds of cases.
Not only does the curator have to be happy with it, but risk management, conservation, there's security, there's a lot of different departments, that have to sign off on this design. So you kind of have to satisfy all these multiple clients throughout the phase of design. They're very small. Yeah, they're a little bit under 2 inches.
Yeah, if you just rename it so it's clearly the necklace. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is all straightforward, exactly. These are all in the middle. These groupings are straightforward, I think this is fine.
And then the second section in the sort of history room, Haysam suggested that in order to learn anything, you have to first unlearn what you're holding on to. And so this second section, we do confront people with the kind of stereotypes of Colombian prehistory.
The history of the pre-Columbian past of Colombia, it has this veil of the colonial historians inventing a past that was convenient for them to exploit the gold. So that is why this is super key.
How do you take on this task of unlearning? Is it through text or through the juxtaposition of objects, or how are you doing that?
That is some part of the $1 million question, but we're kind of doing it through hopefully multiple things in this exhibition. The projections in the gallery should immediately make visitors feel like they are entering a different space from the sort of more normal museum gallery. And so using that design, I want people to kind of wake up as soon as they step in and kind of, think like, whoa, what's happening here? This is different. So that they immediately are kind of in a different mindset when they start. And then the way that the exhibition is set up, so these narrative sections and the order in which people meet the artworks are also designed to kind of help people unlearn or at least be open to learning something new. So for example, we don't start with a map and a timeline, as again would be typical of an exhibition like this. And instead we start with this section about thought and thinking and about getting into the right mindset for learning, in the same way as we did with the Arhuacos in Colombia. It's obviously going to be through the texts. I mean, the texts are going to be key to allow people to understand that exactly the things that they're seeing on the surface are not necessarily, need to be questioned.
When something goes in a book, it just automatically has authority. It's going to be around forever. We have to interrogate that knowledge, the production of that knowledge, always, because it's an enormous amount of power that comes with an enormous amount of responsibility. But it's what we do here. We're not just putting on a spectacle. We're producing knowledge for the future.
Well, another big responsibility that we have is to make sure that the pieces we put on display are authentic. So that brings us back to an earlier concern about fakes in the collection. So as we are trying to finalize the pieces that will go on display, we're just waiting on some results from our conservation team about authenticity. Will we be able to show all of our favorite pieces? I don't know. It's made of a real piece, but the ladies on top are strange.